Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, my weekly live stream podcast where I break down the weekend numbers and have a free-form discussion with the chat. Welcome to Box Office Addict 77. I apologize for not doing one over the previous week. We did not get to cover Dumbo's opening weekend, which is kind of disastrous now, but I wasn't going to let you guys hang on for 2 weeks, so gonna have a test at 2:30, so likely gonna have to leave the stream in an hour and 15 minutes. Alright, cool. So this week I wasn't gonna skip out on talking about Shazam because it's been going on for a while now. So just how you guys doing? Let's get into this shit, motherfuckers. Shazam was great. Fingers crossed it has legs. I think it will. All signs are pointing to Shazam being a very popular movie, and the budget's really not that high. The budget's only $100 million, so they're actually in a pretty good spot, all things considered. Let's get that display picture up so we can look at the box office here in a minute. Okay, Coolio. Not the rapper. Dumbo crash lands. Yeah, I wish I could have made that video. Yeah, Dumbo did have a horrible, especially when compared to the other live-action Disney remakes, even compared to, like, Mary Poppins. I love Princess Kaguya. I mean, the art style kind of puts me off, but this is Sao Takahata. Great filmmaker. My favorite film of his, though, is Only Yesterday. No one wanted a new Dumbo film. No one wants the old Dumbo film. Got back from making $70 on Lyft and a job interview. How it goes, dude? Everything's fine. My life's in the same place. I think I'm getting Mondays and Tuesdays off again, so Box Office Addict might return to Mondays or Tuesdays. It's been all over the place as of late. It's been very tough to do Box Office Addict just because of my schedule. I'm painfully tired and burnout on a lot of things. But I guess I'll just talk about what's happened in my life recently. Last night, I showed my fiance Inglorious Basterds. She had never seen it. She brought up that I always wanted to see that movie. Tim Burton is definitely not a draw anymore. And I don't think Alice in Wonderland had everything to do with him. I think it just had to do with the timing of releasing a 3D movie. But she said, I always wanted to see that movie. I saw the trailers, doesn't meet the hype, and I was like, I guess so. I have this odd relationship with Inglorious Basterds, the film where Tarantino so indulgently says is his masterpiece at the end of the film. I first saw Inglorious Basterds at a drive-in with my father, which was honestly a perfect place to see it. I think that was honestly, you would think you'd want to see a movie like that in a regular theater, but it really played well at a drive-in, very well. But rewatching it, I pretty much had the same feelings on it I've always had, is that it has a great first act, the first 20 minutes really, and then that middle section in the tavern with Michael Fassbender, he comes in and just steals the movie, and then there's that other Nazi guy with the dark hair that's like the best Nazi ever in a movie, and they're playing the game with the cards on their heads, trying to figure out who they are, and the characters are sitting at the table playing that game between each other. The German officer and Fassbender are playing that game. Just not metaphorically, but actually playing it, so that creates a sense of tension, and that both characters are smart and they're trying to get one up in each other because Michael Fassbender's playing a part pretending he's someone that he isn't, and this guy's kind of also playing a part at the same time. So that's a standout scene, and it makes you wish the movie was about them. And then there's the Inglorious Basterds stuff, which I think is what a lot of people thought the movie was going to be when they went to the theater. I mean, that's how it was advertised, was Brad Pitt doing the "I want my Nazi scalps." So you think that that's going to be the movie, and that the scenes early on with them are great. That first scene with them, and then the bear juice scene, those are really fun scenes. So there's that movie, but then there's this whole movie, which is really the bulk of the film, which is about this Jewish girl who lives in France that runs the cinema with her lover, and is approached by this famed German officer, the Sniper. I've talked about Hateful Eight a lot, actually, before on a Box Office Addict. But that's the bulk of the movie. And I think that's probably its weakest asset. It's not that I dislike that stuff. The acting's really good. It's sweet, and sad. And I really like the whole ending in the theater and everything like that. But I guess my issue with the whole movie, rewatching it, and I've seen Glorious Bastards like a dozen times, I just wish Tarantino had taken it a little bit more seriously. And I get that he doesn't do that anymore. Hateful Eight, some parts he takes really seriously, which I respect. I just wish it had been a movie. I get that he wanted it to be a fantasy, but just rewatching it, like that part, the scene with the bastards, right, where they have the officers and they're gonna bring the bear Jew out. There's that cut to Hugo Stiglitz, and then that whole montage and the music and all that stuff just doesn't work for me. The David Bowie music video with her at the theater before the premiere. Um, I don't like any of that stuff. The titles, the cuts. It's like when it's a serious film, when he takes the material seriously, like in the opening scene, like in the tavern scene. It's like his best movie since Pulp Fiction. And I think about the scene in the theater at the end with this theater being on fire and people are trapped and these flags with swastikas on them, these banners are burning. That should be so cinematic and so intense. I mean, that would really, um, that was real. Yeah, I agree with you. Hateful Eight about shifting loyalties. That would have been good. That should be so dark and intense, her laughing at the theater screen, but he still plays it up comically. I mean, when Eli Roth and the other guy come in and start shooting and they kill Hitler, and I know what Tarantino's doing, it just doesn't work for me. Um, and I kind of love that the only character who really gets a happy ending is Aldo Rain. Like his final scene, he gets a happy ending, which is pretty enjoyable. But I just wish the film had taken itself more seriously. I wish it had been like that opening scene and the tavern scene. Or it would have been a man on a mission movie. Men on a mission movie. Which is what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be The Dirty Dozen. If it had been about Aldo and Michael Fassbender coming in halfway, and it was about these guys going through France and trying to kill Nazis and using these tactics, and then them coming to a head with the Jew hunter, and it all kind of ending up. But because we have this long side story and these long scenes, that aren't bad scenes, by the way, but the scene at the restaurant where he orders the cream and all that, and then there's this horrible cutaway during that sequence where she meets the director of the movie, and he just does this cutaway to the director fucking this woman he's with. There's stuff like that that just is so odd to me, where he really does indulge. Or when he even shows the bombs underneath their hidden in their pants in the theater, the way he does that shot. That stuff is just like, it's not that it isn't entertaining, and it's not that it isn't even visually interesting, because it is. It very much is. But it could be, not that it could be tighter. I don't need the film to be shorter. I don't really have pacing issues with Inglorious Basterds. I actually think it's pretty well paced. It's just a caring thing. What do you care about? Do you care about her storyline? Do you care about the bastards and their the enjoyment of this film coming from them? Do you follow the Jew hunter? The movie keeps changing in a lot of ways, who's you're following, who the characters are, and the idea is that everyone's supposed to come together in this big finale. And it's exciting the first time you see the movie when it gets to third act, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to die. You don't know how these people are going to get fucked over. When I first saw it, I was excited to see how Hitler escaped and the bastards ultimately failed in their mission to kill him. But of course, Tarantino couldn't go down that path. But there's little things, though, like that he could have explored, but he had to do other things. Like, if she had really fallen in love with the, I think his last name's Ziegler, the sniper guy, the guy who's pursuing her. If she had actually fallen in a relationship with him, was conflicted because she hates Nazis, but this guy really connects with her. But of course he has to give her black French boyfriend who helps her out, who hardly is a character in the movie. He can't actually explore these things with like a real level of complexity that the opening scene hints at. Because, that is clever that he's speaking English, so the Jews underneath the floorboards don't know what he's saying. It is clever that Michael Fassbender gives himself away by putting 3 up in the wrong way, and the guy notices it, that he doesn't do the German 3. That is good writing. That is tense. It's very suspenseful. It's one of his darker films in tone in that way. You really feel like people are going to die and bad things are going to happen. But there's just those cutaways, like Hugo thinking about when he was whipped and all that stuff. I don't like those cutaways. I'm not going to say they're Family Guy-esque, but they're indulgent, to say the least. It's still an entertaining movie. It's still one of his better movies. I still think the acting is great across the board. I still think the energy of the movie is really exciting. But if he ever wonders, because Tarantino so painstakingly tries to reinterpret history as in the future everyone's going to say Inglorious Basterds is his best film and not Pulp Fiction, because I think he's always trying to run away from Pulp Fiction. The difference, Quentin, and why Inglorious Basterds, while it might be the crowd pleaser of your career, and it will be viewed as such, the reason it won't be Pulp Fiction, the reason it's not Reservoir Dogs, is simply because those films, even though you do occasionally lean on the comedic a lot, or the tone shifts, or you go somewhere else, it's just more focused. It's just more focused, and it's just more direct, and that's all you really need. And unfortunately, you because you can do anything now, you indulge in everything, and you used to have a great deal of restraint. And that's what Inglorious Basterds really doesn't have. It doesn't have any restraint. It's an effect of Kill Bill and Death Proof. Unfortunately, on a film that has a really good screenplay and idea, he can't help but indulge. He does this in The Hateful Eight as well. There's that scene where the guy gets his head just exploded from a gunshot, and it just takes you out of the reality that he was building. And I know Tarantino likes to put you in these... it is a weird cutaway. I know he likes to put you in... genres and hyper realities and all that, and he does that in Pulp Fiction. Jack Rabbit Slims is not real, but it feels real. Where in Inglorious Basterds, I can never buy into this is Hitler, this is this theater, this is real. It always feels, I feel the artifice of it, which gives it this meta aspect and what he wants to do and all that. But yeah, there's a great movie inside Inglorious Basterds that is unfortunately wrapped around a good movie, a decent movie. But inside of that movie, there is a great film that I would say is probably about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it's thematically and poetically, it sticks with you a little bit more than walking out of the theater. Like, I feel like you shouldn't leave that movie so happy. You know, when he puts the knife in Christoph Waltz's head, when he puts the swastika in his head at the end, he's like, "This might be my masterpiece." It's, you walk out of the movie kind of going like, "Fuck yeah," like, "Fuck that guy," you know. I love it. The bastards won. Fuck Nazis. And I think what would make that movie better is if you leave with a melancholy and how tragic everything was, and the ironies, and how bad you feel for everyone is. How bad you feel for everyone. Instead of coming out of it like that was a crowd pleaser, as it was designed to be a funny movie, an enjoyable movie, a grand operatic film. And he says, he doesn't want to do with that, because I know Coppola once asked him a question on that in an interview with Robert Rodriguez. Coppola asked him, directors were asking Tarantino questions, and he said that he gets what he was saying. Can I ever be honest and talk about who I am without being trapped in genre? And he says, I want to make those movies right now. Maybe later I'll make the movies where I just talk about having a kid or having a family and all that stuff. But now I want to do that stuff trapped in genre. I like the comfort of genre. But, and I get that, but Tarantino, you weren't always as comfortable in it. Like, what made Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs so great is that how you played with genre, but you were still making a fucking movie, man. And now he doesn't seem like he's making movies, but instead like an extended music video or montage, which is just a collage of these ideas. I hate Kill Bill 2. I think Kill Bill 2 is his worst movie, yeah. By far, actually. I think it's by far his worst movie. Kill Bill 1's not that good, but Kill Bill 2 is horrible. Which is weird, because it should be good. He has everything going for him going into Kill Bill 2. Kill Bill 1 has a really good ending. That last scene's pretty good. So Kill Bill 2 had everything going for him. And the choices he makes, with the laborious pace, with these dialogue scenes that are some of his weakest dialogue ever, by far. And just the finale with Bill and how underwhelming it is. Holy shit, man. What a disaster. Like, Kill Bill 2 is one of those, like, disastrous follow-ups. Oh, I know that Madcap was trolling. Yeah, Kill Bill 1's okay. That's the thing about it. It's a romp. It's fun. I know Inglorious Basterds, he was actually trying a little harder, because apparently he saw There Will Be Blood, and he's like, I have to elevate my game after PTA made that. And then there's a story Kevin Smith tells where he was hanging out with Tarantino at some bar somewhere after Death Proof came out, after Grindhouse bombed. And he said, I just read the audience wrong, man. I read the audience wrong. But I'm going to Germany, man, and I'm making a movie right now, and I'm going to fuck him so hard with my dick. My dick is so big, I'm going to fuck him hard with the next one. And he was talking about Inglorious Basterds. But his career has been on an uptick. My only hope is with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he goes back to just making a fucking movie. And hopefully, because this is a period piece, but it's more modern than his films have been recently, And because it's about really harsh events, hopefully he plays it with this respect that I've been wanting him to have for a long time, and a restraint, and a classiness that I think Tarantino's films are losing. Because you see the classiness in there. But that when we're supposed to unironically enjoy killing German soldiers, I mean, I know they're not. Yeah, I get what you're saying. He's like commenting on what we even enjoy and using propaganda films as an influence. Django Unchained's okay. I like the first half of Django. When he first meets up with Schultz and they go on that journey towards him into a bounty hunter, and it's like a Western film, and really when he gets to Candy's place, when Leo comes in and the Mandingo scene, all that stuff, I think that's when the film gets messy. Even though I don't dislike that stuff, and I like Sam Jackson, I think that's when this movie gets really messy, and it loses the elegance it had in the first half. And it was very much like just a continuation of Inglorious Basterds. Where Hateful Eight, I think he did a lot of new things, which made me very happy. I mean, I think the car chase in Death Proof is really fun. That's about it, though. And Kurt Russell. Yeah, that's a problem with this films. He never, the meh is silent. Yeah, Django was loved. I mean, everyone loved Django. It was so popular. He won the Oscar, but and I enjoy Django. I'm not acting like Django doesn't have entertaining scenes. It does. Tarantino knows how to write and create scenes. Most of his films are built around conversations and places where the conflict and stuff comes from these really intense conversations. This is the basis of Tarantino films. Also, people telling stories. If you watch enough Tarantino films, you'll find out that a lot of his dialogue is a character telling another character a story, thus Tarantino telling us the story. So it's a movie's about stories. Hateful Eight's all that, but all of his movies are this. It's somebody telling a long story or explaining something to someone else. Which a lot of this I think he takes from Elmore Leonard. But I guess we should get to the box office. Let's talk about Green Book for a second. It has now passed 300 million worldwide. Let me take down the path thing because it's going to block. Oh, come on. It's going to block some of this. But it made $84 million domestic. It should end at $85 million the next week or two. With a $23 million budget, this Best Picture winner, which I think if they had rated to release it a little bit in the States, I think it would have made $100 million. But it didn't need to. For some reason, at the international box office, Driving Miss Daisy 2, Electric Boogaloo became such a big hit. $219 million foreign, $304 million worldwide. What a return for Peter Farrelly. Well-reviewed film, but won Best Picture. Mahershala Ali won Best Supporting Actor, won Screenplay. But yeah, 300 million worldwide. This is a very successful film. I just wanted to bring this up again. I'd kind of moved on past talking about Green Book, but now that it's past this is really a benchmark, and an achievement. It became the crowd-pleasing Best Picture winning film that people thought it was going to be at Venice, that it seemed like it wasn't going to be. It didn't really catch on. I even remember the Gold Derby people talking about it. Like, they're talking about this a crowd movie, but the movie's only made like 120 million worldwide. But now at this point, we could definitely say it was a major success all around. Alita is at 85 million of 401 million worldwide. They still have not broke even on this film. The Beach Bum, the new film from Harmony Korine, made 1.7 million, I believe, last week and is now at 3 million. We all knew that was going to be a bomb. Harmony Korine films do not make money. Even though I am a fan of him, I like Harmony Korine. I especially like his early work. I like his involvement with the film Kids, which I had a conversation with a guy from work about Kids. He's like, you seen that movie Kids? And I'm like, fuck, dude, you're bringing up Kids to me? Holy shit. One of the most fucked up movies you'll ever watch is Kids. It's like one of the biggest debated films, whether it has artistic merit or if it's just smut. Medea's Family Funeral is easily becoming one of Tyler Perry's most successful films at $72 million. I think it'll end up at $75 million. So really, that has turned into one of his successful films. Let's go up to How to Train Your Dragon. It's now past $500 million. It's made more than the first film worldwide, less than the second film. Domestically, it's not really close to either one. So I'd say this is a slight disappointment financially, but not a bomb by any means, especially since the budget is the lowest of the three films. Wonder Park continues to be an animated disaster. 41 mil domestic, 59 million worldwide. What the fuck is this movie? Unplanned has made $12.4 million on a $6 million budget, but I'm sure with some marketing, that thing has some still has some money to make. 5 Feet Apart is doing really well, all things considered. 41 mil domestic, 62 worldwide. Maybe this can make 80 to 100 million. It's not done yet. Maybe it'll reach 50 million. The Best of Enemies opened to 4.5 million with a $10 million budget. This stars the great Sam Rockwell. I have no idea what the fuck this movie is. Just saying. Yeah, people are gonna hold on to that Alita sequel for the longest time. Ridiculous. I just think people grew past Tim Burton. I think there was a time when the stuff that Tim Burton liked and what he made for himself, because I think all artists to some level make movies for themselves. They just hope that other people like them, and sometimes you're right and sometimes you don't. How do you learn to notice subtleties in film? You study them, you watch them obsessively, and you talk to other people about them. You don't just listen to commentaries and read books on film, even though I highly suggest that. You talk to other people, you watch these movies with people, and you meet other like-minded individuals that study film, and they will teach you how to notice these things. You have to get with somebody that maybe they're a writer, maybe they're a photographer, they notice things, and they're able to give you the ability to notice those things too. You can translate those things from other people. They will put a little bit of what they have in their DNA in your DNA, and then you have that, and you have to keep developing it. Because when you're first watching movies, you're just going to notice everything on the surface level that's entertaining or enjoyable at the movie. And you might notice clever little storytelling beats and all that. It's mainly just exposing yourself to all sorts of different kinds of movies, because then you start to pick up patterns. Just like anything, if you see enough, you'll notice the patterns in these beats, so you can kind of predict where things are going. But to notice the subtleties, you really have to deep dive into intense conversation, and in trying not to just navel gaze and put things in there that aren't there. You really have to try to like separate the fantasy from the reality, and you have to understand how films are made. I'd say making a movie is a great way to notice them, because you'll notice what you did with your movie, and you'll start to see how people do that from your own personal experience. Like for me, I learned how pragmatic directing a movie is, how you have to be a pragmatist in order to execute things, and compromises you have to make, so you start to notice compromises or pragmatic things that are done by the filmmaker and what you're watching. So I'd say not just talking about it, but practicing it yourself. Even if you make bad things, you'll learn then that, like, oh, this is kind of how this is done on a base level, and from that you can build upon it. That'll be your foundation. And then at a point when you see a really bad movie that doesn't work, it'll be like you looking at a blueprint for something, for a building, let's say, and you see the blueprint and you're like, dude, this building's gonna collapse. Because you know it, you have just enough knowledge to see that there's no foundation there and the whole thing's gonna collapse. But at the start level, I would say just watch a lot of things. Watch like 3 films in a day. Watch like 20 films a week. You know, there was a point I was watching 20 to 30 films a week. Even a couple of years ago, I had a week where I watched like 22 movies. And watch more than one in a day. Don't just watch one movie and think about it. Watch another film that's different. And don't watch like 3 films from the same filmmaker. You know, do a Rossellini film, then watch a Fassbender film, then jump and watch like a David Lynch movie. Then tomorrow get up and be like, okay, now I'm gonna watch a Nick Rogue film. Then I'm gonna watch a Dreyer film. Then I'm gonna watch Kubrick or what have you. I'm gonna watch Lolita, a film that isn't as popular as, say, watching 2001, but watch Lolita. You know, and then maybe next week watch Lolita again, and then put on something like Bull Durham and change everything. You know, as things like that then you'll start to develop, because after all, it just becomes instinct like anything. It's a muscle memory thing, right? But there's the mental muscle memory, so it just becomes an instinct where you kind of just start to feel things that are happening and noticing things like subtleties, but it's instinctual. And even though there is a process to it, you don't have to explain it. Just like anything, if you shoot a basketball every day, eventually you're going to get a little bit better getting the basketball in the net. You'll eventually get a little bit better of being able to break down the things you're seeing in movies. Would Batman killing and his anger towards Superman be more justified if, say, Superman had accidentally killed Dick Grayson during the Man of Steel? 100%. That's a much better idea. What if no one I know loves films? Then I guess you have conversations with yourself in your head, or you find somebody online to talk to via Skype. My best friend to talk to movies about lives in Seattle, and we've only met each other once, so... But we have very good conversations on Skype. It's hard to meet real film buffs. It's easy to meet a lot of people that love movies, but do they know movies? Same thing with music, though. Everybody loves music, but to meet someone who's actually a music nerd is different. Yeah, I think if James Cameron had directed Alita, could have been really good. I think he could have fixed a lot of the issues just because that James Cameron quality. Although maybe Alita was just never a good idea for a mainstream movie. Maybe it was never going to be the billion-dollar film it could have been. Maybe it always was a niche thing. Who knows? Maybe it wasn't a good idea. Maybe we all thought it was a good idea for a movie, but maybe it really wasn't a good idea for a movie. I don't know. In retrospect, maybe it was a bad idea. On paper, it seemed like a cool idea to make Battle Angel into a movie, though. I always thought it was a cool idea, especially the manga. There's some badass shit in that manga. Plus, it's Universal. There's Astro Boy qualities to it. Someone discovering themselves and seeing this world, and we're getting introduced to the world through their giant eyes. And just the kinetic energy and the visceral nature of the story, I think, could have been... And it's not like Rodriguez didn't translate that. These are good special effects. I just don't know if he went very beyond that, but this has always kind of been the issue with Robert Rodriguez. Kill la Kill. I only watched a couple episodes. I like parts of it. I wasn't into it as much as everyone else. I have friends who are obsessed with it, though. I have seen a couple episodes of it, though. I like the animation. But why did Robert have to take a 3-hour script and condense it into a 2-hour film? Did he make that decision, or was that a studio decision? Because I'm sure if James Cameron told them, I want this to be a 3-hour goddamn movie and let Robert make that, they would have said yes. Who made that decision that it had to become a 2-hour film from a 3-hour film? And I don't think a 3-hour film, I think it would make it a better movie, but it wouldn't make it a great movie. There's still just major issues. I would like to think The Nightmare Before Christmas has that kind of depth, but I don't. I think it's just, Burton shit out some ideas, but maybe they mean something and he didn't even know that when he was doing them. I don't think the manga translates very well either. There are some mangas and animes I think Death Note could have been a very successful movie franchise. It's just, they made the worst possible fucking adaptation of Death Note you can make, but Death Note's very cinematic. There's stuff like that. I love John Cho. Let me make that clear. I think John Cho's brilliant. I always did. He's always been... Of course, I've seen One Punch Man. Love One Punch Man. He's particularly great in this movie called Columbus. Kokonada made that film, I think. I have a review of it on here. It's one of my better reviews, I think. I love that film. John Cho's always been kind of brilliant and underused. He's underused in American Pie. He's great in Harold and Kumar. He's kind of the thing that breaks out in Harold and Kumar is how good he is. I don't like him as Spike Spiegel. It's not because he isn't a brilliant actor, because I think in many ways he's a really good actor. Would you rather have a big penis or last longer in bed? Definitely to have a big penis. You wouldn't need to last longer in bed if you had a big penis. You'd just be so self-satisfied with yourself. You'd be a selfish lover. And you could walk around with this confidence, where I think just lasting longer in bed, like... I've had sex for 2 or 3 hours, and I gotta say, it's not as enjoyable as the really great sex I've had at 20, 30 minutes. Like, having sex for an hour can get really fucking... I don't want to say boring, but, yeah, I'm not into the whole long sex thing, and I have a lot... I think it's a dumb young guy thing. I think it's arrogance when you're talking to a young guy and he talks about, oh yeah, I fucked this girl for like 2 hours straight, man, or like we had sex like this and all that. It sounds like very immature, like they haven't actually had a lot of sex. Because from my experience, and I know everyone's going to chat's going to be like, dude, I have sex way longer than that. You fucking bitch. Like, most sex sessions I've ever had last 15 minutes, maybe a half hour, 20-something minutes at the longest, maybe 25 minutes. Not counting, oral and foreplay and all that. But people who talk about just having penetration for like 2 or 3 hours, like, Good for you, man, but I would hate that. I've had sex for, and it's just like the most boring thing in the world. Most girls I've ever been with, they get bored, especially because if you're doing the same shit, even if you change positions, uh, it's just, it can get dry too. I'm just saying. And if you've had sex enough in your life and you're an adult, I think you know what I mean. So if you're ever a young guy just ranting on about lasting 3 hours, I would roll my eyes at that, because that's just like, well, either you are a selfish kind of lover, you're dating a girl who just likes to get fucked, that's all she's into, or you're lying, possibly. Why does your movie Sucks give Lion King a 10/10 and dislike The Middle of Empire Strikes Back? I mean, The Middle of Empire Strikes Back is its biggest weakness, but I don't know anyone could give The Lion King a 10/10. What is he, a fucking... Really? I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't know. Adam's weird. I don't understand Adam's fucking opinions on half the shit he talks about. But yeah, well, yeah, the big penis, of course. Just to feel good about yourself. That would make you feel so good about yourself. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like a big cock. I'm talking like you have a big dick, not like you have like a 6, 7 inch, 7.5 inch penis or something. Like you have like a 9-inch penis that's real thick. But that'd probably make you feel better about yourself than being able to last long in bed. Because lasting long in bed's just like a discipline. Having a big dick is genetic. That's like a gift from God. So take the gift from God. And Simba does suck, by the way. Alright, let's talk about Captain Marvel, the bomb from Disney that bought all these tickets and isn't making as much money as Alita. $374 million domestic. This is just abysmal numbers on a $150 million budget. $1,038 million worldwide, will probably make $1.1 billion. Didn't make as much as Aquaman, didn't make as much as Avengers, didn't make as much as Age of Ultron, Infinity War, or Black Panther. This is a total disaster from Disney. Everyone involved should be embarrassed with the performance of this movie. Just $1 billion, really, after all the hype and all of the controversy? Your movie just makes $1 billion. I mean, it's not a bomb, but it's not really a hit either, and let's not fool ourselves into thinking otherwise. I mean, good for everyone involved. Brie Larson gets to pretend that she had a victory, but really, I doubt they even broke even on this. I'm sure the budget of this film was actually $350 million, and they probably spent $250 million on marketing. I wouldn't be shocked if this was the most expensive film ever made. But the fact that Disney bought at least half of the tickets, this isn't even real money. This is just them putting money back into something to give the illusion that it made this before they know they're going to make money off Endgame. So, you know, Alita... when it eventually does break even on home video, and then 20 years from now is celebrated as a classic in the same way Blade Runner is and ends up making hundreds of million dollars on video, everyone's going to have forgotten about Captain Marvel and really this fake money that Disney's done through some really shady accounting. Terrible performance all around. Adam isn't an idiot. He's just too biased in his point of view. Like, he just likes these certain types of movies way too much, and other movies I don't think he really understands. I don't think... Like, when I really got this when I understood when he went on Movie Fights, and he didn't know who Christopher Guest was, and he never saw Animal House. And he has this idea where he talks about that he's so harsh on films because the standards have risen from old days. I don't think he's as knowledgeable on film as people think he is. I think he's seen a lot of new films from the last 10, 15 years. I think he's seen thousands of them. I think he has filmmakers he loves, but do I think he's knowledgeable in 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s? No, not at all. I don't think he's studied in that stuff well at all. And I think it affects his reviewing because his film historian knowledge is so lacking, even though when it comes to current cinema, he's very aware of modern filmmakers and what's going on. And I get wanting to be more aware and hip with what's the new, but unfortunately, his hipster qualities as a person affect his ability as a thinker to structure really good arguments and reviews and breaking down negatives for a film and finding the lack of logic in them, which is what he's really good at. Oh yeah, there's 100% proof that Disney bought all the tickets. There's also 100% proof that that they paid off Rotten Tomatoes. There's also 100% proof that Alita actually was a huge hit, and they're lying about that. They paid off all the theater chains, because Alita actually made like $1 billion, but they've been lying about it. This has all been proven without a shadow of a doubt. See you, Noel. No, every Studio Ghibli film isn't great. Tales from Earthsea is not very good. For the most part, they're all great, though. I gotta say that now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not a big My Neighbor Totoro fan. But I would say 98% of the movies are great or very good. You know, Pompoko I don't think is great, but it's fucking good. The Cat Returns is good. My friends and brother said Captain Marvel was pretty good. Oh, well, no, it's actually the worst film ever made. Alita's pretty good. It's great. They should have went and saw Alita, but unfortunately Disney also paid off your relatives, your brother and his friends, to not go see Alita and instead to go see Captain Marvel. They were paid by Disney to do that, which is really unfortunate, but this is just the deadly game that Disney's playing, those fucking social justice warriors. How goddamn dare they try to take away the cinematic masterpiece made by Robert Rodriguez to perpetuate this feminist garbage. Really disgusting. I'm sorry that your brother and his friends are sellouts. But what's integrity? I guess integrity's just an illusion until you get the right price tag. I like Ponyo. Ponyo's actually aged really well for me. Ponyo's the movie I think people think Totoro is. Now that time's gone on, Ponyo is like a children's book come to life. I really like Ponyo now. And I didn't like Ponyo at first. Yeah, those fucking casual normie fuckers who like Captain Marvel and don't go see Alita. A bunch of sheeps. How do you feel about the Disney-Fox merger? It sucks. I mean, it's going to be cool to see the X-Men, but the fact that Disney owns everything now is pretty terrible for content. Disney ruins everything they touch, just like Star Wars ripped Marvel. I guess we're gonna have to suck off Sony to make good flicks. If Disney bought 1 billion tickets, then how do you conspiracy theorists explain every success to Transformers, Jurassic World, Illumination films, and such? Quite simple. They all bought the tickets too, Madcap. Transformers, all those tickets were bought. Jurassic World, all of it. It's all a lie. The only movie that actually made money in the last 10 years was Alita. But they're lying about that because they don't want this masterpiece, Alita, to be presented as the great film that it is. Unfortunately, because they really hate Jim Cameron and Robert Rodriguez. Those are all conspiracies. All of those films weren't actually successful. Yeah, especially Jurassic World 1 and 2. That was all tickets bought by Steven Spielberg himself. He invested at least $2 billion of his net worth into buying tickets and merchandise for those movies. I think your movie sucks said that he thought Yoda looked fake, his voice was annoying, and that the slow-mo and Luke fake. Who gives a fuck if he thought that's stupid? The slow-mo's great. That shot looks great. That looks like a shot from a Bergman movie when his face revealed. I don't know what the fuck that's beautifully Yoda is movie magic come to life. Yoda feels real. Empire Strikes Back, the reason it's kind of the blockbuster of blockbusters in a lot of ways, that it feels so much a part of the Spielberg era, even though Spielberg didn't direct it, but it feels like in a lot of ways the definitive Spielberg-Lucas movie, more so than Jaws and Star Wars, and more so than Raiders and E.T. and all that, and Irvin Kershner doing, is that it is movie magic brought to life. The aesthetics, the details, not just the storytelling acumen, not just all of the things about it that are great as a sequel and how groundbreaking it is. When you watch Empire, the magic of movies, the escapism, the sense of discovery, the journeys that we go on to films. Not just that Star Wars was an idea of going back to an older time, the Flash Gordons, and bringing it to modern day with special effects that had validity. Empire takes it to that next level where you make the argument that now this isn't just art, but honestly as valuable as an art form as anything else. Empire is escapism, ultimately at its absolute best, and part of that is on being on Dagobah. Dagobah feels real, Yoda feels real, and you believe this puppet is a real person, and that takes that movie to another level that the other films don't have. No, Shazam's tickets are also all been bought by WB. Actually, it's not going to make anywhere near as much money as Alita actually made. WB is also involved with this conspiracy and has bought tickets for this film. Shazam actually only opened to about 8 million, where Alita opened to 273 million on its opening weekend. But they're never going to report on the actual numbers. All right. Us from Jordan Peele, who I recently watched his new Twilight Zone show. I might do a review of that. It fucking sucks. And I know he didn't really write the scripts to them, and I like the Rod Serling homage parts he does, and I like the way he comes in and out of it. I like the aesthetics. I like all that. But man, these scripts for this new Twilight Zone show are fucking horrible. It's embarrassing. I can't believe that he signed off on this. Especially as the successful movie out right now. I mean, goddamn, fuck CBS All Access. They had to fuck up Star Trek and The Twilight Zone, which are two of the defining science fiction allegorical storytelling, just franchises, things that have ever existed. And they had to ruin both of them. Originally, Star Trek Discovery was going to be a Netflix thing. The Twilight Zone show could have been on all sorts of things that have been great. It could have been an HBO show. And unfortunately, they had to go to CBS All Access, which is a fucking dumpster. For what was once great stuff to be shit on. Literally, they are putting their asses on the top of the dumpster with these things inside of them and shitting into the dumpster and covering these properties in shit. CBS shit. Anyway, Us had a pretty big drop this weekend, which is to be expected just because of the genre it's in, and it isn't, it doesn't have that Get Out hype. It's like, you gotta go see this movie. It had a 53% drop in its second weekend, but this 58% drop is pretty damn steep. It should be able to reach Get Out's domestic total, which I think was 176 million. I don't know if it'll reach 200 million. A lot of people think it's on track to that. I don't think it will, but worldwide, 216 million. Get Out made 255 million. This should be able to make more than that worldwide. Although it's not blowing up at the foreign box office, neither did Get Out, really. But with a $20 million budget, Get Out cost $4 million. This is already a successful film. It's critically acclaimed. I don't think it'll get the Oscar nominations Get Out get. I don't think he's going to get a Best Directing nomination for this or screenplay. But still, critically acclaimed, financially successful, like all horror films are now. Huge opening weekend. I mean, that really still puts his name out there. But I do feel like this one's more divisive and people don't love it as much as Get Out. I do think that's the feeling in the air. But still, this film should be able to make 250 million worldwide, at least, and with its budget, it's a huge success. And he's got Candyman coming out, so Us is definitely. But yeah, if I was him, I would distance myself from the Twilight Zone in its second season, or I would just be involved with all of the scripts and spend a lot more time developing it. I already talked about District 9 a few weeks ago. I don't want to talk. Oh, DS9. Sorry. Deep Space Nine, second best Star Trek show after the original. DS9's great. Yeah, I think Us has a mixed opinion. I don't even think it's SJW stuff. It's just bad writing. I can deal with SJW stuff if the writing's still good. The writing for Twilight Zone's just bad. Yeah, the stand-up episode had potential, but the jokes weren't funny. They reveal the plot twist way too fucking early. I was digging the scene with I enjoy all the parts I really enjoyed of that. The main guy, Camille Mahanj, he gives a good performance, and I was really digging the stuff with Tracy Morgan. I think that stuff is great and felt like the Twilight Zone. But everything else around him, the supporting characters, his girlfriend, all that stuff was undercooked. There was a lack of world building. What was so great about the original Twilight Zone is that Serling, with his really tight pacing and writing, those half-hour episodes, he would spend a lot of time on world building, so you can get engulfed in that, and then the metaphors would come across while you were really being involved in this great world building. Whereas in this new Twilight Zone, they're way too caught up in these hour-long episodes that are way too long in trying to have these repetition. I mean, we see him tell that joke, the stand-up joke about the Second Amendment. He tells that joke like 6 times. I got it after the second time. The first time I get we need to see it that it bombs and he's not a good comedian. Then when he tries to do it again and then he finds out this new stuff is working. But then they show him do it again and again and I'm not kidding, it's like 6 times. It's so ridiculous. It just makes it, and the episode's filled with that shit where they just keep reinstating the point and making it so obvious. Like, is the whole argument that an artist puts too much of their personal lives in their material is comedy art? These are interesting things, but these aren't actually discussed and really explored. We keep just seeing him go up there, tell the bad joke, and then tell the new joke, which is also bad, but luckily because they're using the idea that people are only laughing, which stand-up comedy's never been done well in movies or TV, but they're only laughing because of this like supernatural element. That gives it some logic. But him him going up and repeating it, and then it just keeps happening. The dog disappearing early on, then the nephew, then another thing happens, then another thing happens, and then you kind of see the ending coming a mile away. You know exactly how it's going to end. If it was more of the Tracy Morgan stuff, which was awesome, I like that stuff. I like the Shining homages. I like that they were trying to make it like a Kubrick film, visually at least, and I like the acting from the lead guy. All that was good. That showed potential. Yeah, but that's not a movie, Eddie Murphy doing that. That's actually them just filming a stand-up routine. That doesn't count. That's a stand-up special that they put in theaters. Yeah, stand-up specials have worked in movies and television. But has stand-up being done by an actor or a comedian that's being written by someone ever worked in a movie? No, never. It's never been funny. It's one of the biggest flaws of Funny People. It's one of the biggest flaws of that movie. That horrible movie with Tom Hanks and Sally Field. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a horrible movie where the material's horrible. Even Lenny kind of suffers from this, the Bob Fosse film, even though it's a great movie. And it's not really about that, but it's never worked, which is weird because sometimes you really have to do it right. You'd have to build a movie around a stand-up comic. Like if you want to do that kind of movie, like Louis C.K. pulled it off with Louis, but he's actually just doing a stand-up. You'd have to build it around like Bill Burr, like build the movie around Bill Burr, and when he's doing stand-up, it's Bill Burr stand-up, and then you write a character and a story around Bill Burr. So that's what I would do. But whenever they actually just whenever they just, it's a writer trying to create a stand-up set, it never seems to work. It's never worked. I really can't explain why. But it seems like the best way to do it is just do like Eddie Murphy Raw and Delirious. Just get a brilliant comedian in his zeitgeist moment, film it, and put it out there, and then it speaks for itself as a piece of art, like a really good concert film. I mean, nothing's ever there's been great concert scenes in movies, but nothing can compare to watching Stop Making Sense or The Last Waltz. Funny People's not a bad movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just the stand-up scenes aren't very good. Like I don't hate Funny People. I don't like the second half at all, but the first half's okay. It's just the stand-up routine scenes, which there's, and I don't think they were supposed to be good, but it's kind of a flaw of the movie that these are stand-ups that are getting popular, but they're not really saying funny stuff. Because Louis C.K. sat down with Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill. It's a great story. He explained to them. He told this on Opie and Anthony that how they suck. He's like, you guys are horrible at this. Are you supposed to be bad? And Seth Rogen's like, yeah, we're not supposed to be good. And he's like, good, because you're awful. And he told them for an hour how their stand-up was terrible. But then Seth Rogen says that we're supposed to be bad, but the whole movie's about Adam Sandler hiring this guy because his stuff's good, and then this guy's growing as a comic, but his stuff isn't funny. So that's always been my issue with that stuff. But yeah, I agree. The first 2 seasons of Louis, he did that very well. Or Seinfeld, how does a comedian get his material? That does work. That seems to be the approach to go with. Otherwise, though, and that was the biggest flaw with the Twilight Zone episode with the comedian thing, it's just that you didn't really buy the comedy aspect of it, that these were comedians, that he actually became funny, that there was a debate on comedy. It didn't feel right. Larry Sanders is my favorite sitcom, closely followed by Seinfeld. Yeah, they're both great, and they were... Yeah, and they're around at the same time, which is crazy. What a bag of Jewish riches. I wonder what a Jordan Peele directed Stephen King adaptation would be like. I'll probably not too far off from his movies. I think Candyman, which is a Clive Barker story, I think that'll be very Stephen King. I don't think it would be that far off. I think he could have done Pet Sematary. I think the aesthetics would be pretty much the same. I mean, honestly, he's very similar to Stephen King. You know? Man, Chris Stuckman, all of his analysis videos are not worth watching. I've watched all of them, like, why action movies are different now, and they fucking suck. Chris Stuckman is like, if you're 14 years old and you're first getting into movies and you want to watch a YouTuber talk about movies, that's what Chris Stuckman is there for. Beyond that, I don't know how that guy's so popular. He has no charisma, for one thing. His analysis and insights are, I mean, it's just the most, like, banal bullshit possible. With the idea that it's a repeating formula. Indiana Jones. Well, there's really only two great Indiana Jones movies in my mind. And they do follow formula, but following a formula is an excuse for lazy storytelling and characterization. I don't really have a problem with the formula of Force Awakens. I don't think that's the issue with it. Because Star Wars had a formula that wasn't new. It's just compelling characters and details. The details are what makes Star Wars so great. The sound effects, the look of the movie, the choices, the editing. Use the Force, Luke. It's details that really make it great. I don't think the details are great in The Force Awakens, and I also don't think the characters are as there's hints of likability, and Poe could be a very likable character, but he's only in the movie like 5 minutes. I don't think Temple of Doom is awesome. I like Temple of Doom. I think it's a fun movie. It was my favorite when I was a kid. And it is a nice throwback, to a certain type of movie. But Temple of Doom is, I especially think when they get to the third act and the scenes with the kids and all that stuff just does not work for me at all. That's some of like the weakest Spielberg stuff. Great opening scene though. The opening scene at the place is really nice. Yeah, it's details. That's what makes Star Wars, like, Star Wars has a formula. I mean, it's the hero's journey. It's going back to these old things, but the details of the movie is what's brilliant about Star Wars. That's what makes Star Wars. It's the way they're dressed. It's the way the planets look. It's the two suns. All that stuff. Force Awakens didn't have any new ideas. They didn't just take the formula from New Hope. They took the aesthetics. They took the ships. There was nothing new about it. The designs weren't new. Like, people bitch about Kylo Ren's lightsaber all the time, but the cool thing about it was that it was new. It was different. We hadn't seen a lightsaber like that before, so it made you wonder, why is this lightsaber that way? That's the stuff that works, but the rest of it was just this meta bullshit. Like, if Abrams thought that he could be self-aware about that he was taking so much from the original trilogy to take you in a journey of nostalgia, that made it okay that it was just a retread, instead of telling a new story in this universe, like Empire did to New Hope. I don't know when David Fincher's next movie will come out. It seems like he's obsessed with this Netflix thing. I don't agree that telling the exact same story is pointless. I never said Clive Barker directed Candyman. I said that it came from a Clive Barker story. Bernard Rose directed Candyman, who also directed the movie Paper House. But nice try. Plus, Disney has to prove that Star Wars movie could be right, unlike the prequel's disaster. Yeah, Last Crusade is really good. Yeah, I liked his lightsaber too. I don't get, I don't know, because it was different. It was a new choice. It was a detail. I like that about that. I don't want to punch Chris Stuckman. I didn't say that. Somebody wrote that in the chat. I just hate that he's the big movie reviewer, because I think there's much better review channels than him that do. Like, for instance, like Double Toasted, I think is a much better channel than Chris Stuckman. I think, Red Letter Media is much better, and they're as popular as him. Don't get me wrong; they're more popular than him. But I hate that he's like the main guy, because he's as vanilla as it gets. I don't know, because people like to make points to sound smart and interesting, and then they don't really have anything to follow up with it. I think they don't actually think about it. They think that they had this idea that nobody ever had before, like, yeah, it's not good to tell the same story and over again. It's like, people have been saying that forever. It's not in telling of the story, it's how you tell the story. It's how the story is told that makes it compelling, even though it's the same story. I agree that Corey's the biggest drawback, and he always was with Spill. Martin is a much better reviewer. Martin's much more articulate. Martin's funnier and smarter. All of the best lines in those reviews are just like back when they were Spill, co-host and Chris, and them were all better. Corey's too much of a dominant presence. And that's always kind of been my issue with him and Spill and now, and he's even more of a dominant presence on Double Toasted. I really wish it was just Martin and Chris, like when they started One of Us, but unfortunately, Corey kind of does make it all about him. He spends way too much of those reviews talking about the plot and giving his opinion, when everyone else just says much better things and is more concise. He's trying so hard to sound smart, instead of just being the funny guy that he is. I don't know where Bathory is. It's unfortunate. I miss Bathory. I miss her in a lot of ways. I feel like we don't really talk anymore, and I don't see her. She always has my back. That's what I always like about Bathory. She's very loyal. A lot of the time, the argument is used as an excuse to make changes to the story in order to make it more generic. I mean, that's probably true for a lot of things. Oh no, they're great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan. I was a fan of them back in the Spill days for sure. Corey just makes it about him. I think that's always been the problem. That was the problem with Spill. I mean, he surrounds himself with brilliant people, and his choices and directing of it and the presentation is great. But I do think he's a little too dominate. He dominates a little bit too much. He alphas the things a little bit too much. Where Martin's over there just spewing out brilliance. But I'm a fan. I think every Double Toaster review's funny. I mean, all of them. I don't think they've ever had a review that isn't. Even if I don't agree with their opinions, I think all their reviews are funny. I agree. I agree that the critiques of Last Jedi have a much firmer standing. I agree with you. Oh, Corey used to do this on Spill when they would do the animated editing thing. He would edit out the other guy's parts and just keep himself so much of it. But it is his thing. He started it. It's his company. So he has a right to do that. I just wish he knew that the strength isn't him. Even back when they did the great podcast on Spill, like, co-host was my favorite. All right, let's talk about Tim Burton's Dumbo. Opened to $45 million, which isn't the worst opening weekend, but for a $170 million film, God, Aaron Kruger wrote this, one of the worst writers. Combine that with the marketing, that is a bad opening weekend. It's not the worst if it had good word of mouth. It seemed like when the trailer came out for this, Dumbo had all sorts of hype. I don't know what really happened with this movie. People just sort of moved on. Like, I remember a few months ago when they premiered that trailer, everybody was so into it. Maybe it's because of a lack of really, really big names. Like, I don't think Colin Farrell and DeVito and Michael Keaton are big draws to the box office. I think they have to be in the right thing, even though I'm a fan of all of them. And Burton's name certainly has no draw anymore for years. A movie about the circus with Tim Burton could have worked, though. I like those circus scenes in Big Fish. Horrible second weekend, though. Huge drop, $18 million at $76 million. This should make $100 million, but is not going to make anywhere near its budget. Worldwide, this is going to have to make, I imagine, $450 million to break even, which it doesn't look like it's on the pathway to. So this is the thing. Maybe the Disney live action thing isn't foolproof. It has to be the right thing. It seems like when they adapt the '90s Renaissance movies, when they do, oh, that's not true though, because Jungle Book made $1 billion. And Cinderella did well. So I don't know. I think the 90s Renaissance ones plays more to this current generation. I just never think, I don't think Dumbo was ever that popular. I mean, I think it was when it came out. I don't think Dumbo's really as time has gone on, has stayed one of the, just like Mary Poppins. I think everyone's seen Mary Poppins, but I don't really know if it's as relevant as Disney might think it is. Like Dumbo was a risky choice. Maybe Dumbo had been really cute and everyone would fall in love with it. Maybe that was their idea. Everyone will just love Dumbo and Tim Burton making it. But I don't really know what to attribute to this being a disappointment. It really seems like on paper it should have done better. It's definitely too expensive. This movie should have never cost $170 million. I would have only spent $100 million on this movie if it was me. The budget is way too high. Tim Burton, yeah, his last film did okay. The Peculiar Children movie, it made about $300 million. Big Eyes didn't do well. Frankenweenie didn't do well. Dark Shadows was basically a bomb. Alice in Wonderland made $1 billion. And from that, he had a pretty good run. Sweeney Todd made money. Corpse Bride did well. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was a hit. Big Fish was kind of a disappointment, but it's really... Planet of the Apes was a hit. Sleepy Hollow was a hit. Mars Attacks was a bomb. Ed Wood was a bomb. Batman Returns, Edward Scissorhands. Then you have Batman and Beetlejuice and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. These were all successful movies. And adjusted for ticket price inflation, you have $568 million for Batman. Alice in Wonderland's $380 million. Batman Returns is $350. Charlie's $290. Planet of the Apes is $287. Sleepy Hollow's $180. Beetlejuice made $160. Edward Scissorhands $120. And Pee-wee's Big Adventure $104 million. And, $40 million for 1985. Those are good numbers. So really, he's had mostly hits. Tim Burton's career. But the last few years, a lot of these films, like Dark Shadows, it cost $150 million. There was no way. That really felt like an end of an era when that didn't do well. So I'm not sure. Why do you guys think Dumbo? God damn. Okay, hold on. Yeah, why do you guys think Dumbo didn't do well? Yeah, the Cinderella movie did well. I forgot about that. I guess my point was wrong. Well, of course, Pet Sematary opened at number 2. Do you think it was going to beat Shazam? I don't think anyone ever thought that. I'm shocked it didn't open a little higher considering how well it opened and the Halloween remake. And not just that, but also Us opening to 71 million. I am shocked Pet Sematary didn't open to like 35-40 million. It actually is a pretty low opening weekend when you consider how well horror films are doing, including like Annabelle. I would do a Metroid film very much like a silent film, where Samus starts on her ship and then she goes to a planet and you just follow her, and it's visual storytelling. And very much make it like Alien, but with a bigger budget. And go back to Ridley Scott's first Alien movie. Children are now monsters who can't feel or empathize. I think the marketing wasn't very good. Poor word of mouth, too. Tim Burton's name may potentially drive people away. I think you're probably right for the first time in your life. I think, yeah, it was bad marketing, poor word of mouth, and Tim Burton's name not really having. I mean, if Brie Larson didn't talk as Samus, I wouldn't really... I've always kind of pictured, like, Charlize Theron or the chick from Battlestar Galactica that played Starbuck. I always thought she'd be a good Samus, Aaron. Love that chick. Kelly something. She's great. But yeah, Dumbo's $215 million after 2 weeks. Pretty bad performance. I don't want to say it's horrible, but a 60% drop. The word of mouth is bad. People were not into this movie. They probably should have released it later in the year and not during this, the spring like this. I think it was I think a bad release date could connect this too, but it's weird. Disney's had a few disappointments like this now. In between these massive successful films. Pet Sematary, $25 million opening weekend. Kind of a generic opening weekend. What you think it would open to? Pet Sematary is my favorite Stephen King book. I think it's his tightest book. I think it's his creepiest book. I think Louis Creed's his best characterization. And I love the Bachman stuff. I love The Long Walk. That's great. I like The Running Man. But just classic Stephen King books. I think Pet Sematary is his best. And I always wanted to make a remake of it because I always thought the original film, despite having some really iconic moments, never held up. And me and my friends for years was like, man, I want to remake Pet Sematary. I always had my idea of John Cusack. Now I'm pissed that this film got a remake, and I didn't get to make it. That really pisses me off. Like the casting, I don't like the gender change of the kid at all. by the way. But $21 million budget. This only got pushed through. They were trying to remake this for a decade. Nothing was happening. Then it came out. We're going to get they're going to remake The Shining, people. It's going to happen eventually. They're going to remake everything. They're going to do everything Stephen King. We're going to get a new fucking... I mean, Carrie should have waited a few years, but we're going to get all sorts of shit. Stephen King's going to come back like he always does in waves. Cool poster there, though. But, yeah, this isn't a great opening weekend. Don't get me wrong, this is a good opening weekend with the budget, $25 million. The film should be able to make $60-70 million. But really, this should have been a film that opened to $40 million, made $100 million domestic, been able to make over $200 million worldwide. Only because I'm saying horror films are doing so well now. You have Annabelle, you have The Conjuring, you have Insidious, you have how well it did, the new Halloween movie, how much well Us is doing, how well Get Out did. That this movie, just for the name alone, the brand, the IP of it, it should have opened higher. And the reviews were good at first. The reviews did drop, but they're good reviews. You know, it's a lot of like 6 out of 10, 6.5 kind of reviews, but, you know, 2.5 stars, maybe 3 stars. But still, I thought this would open better. I really did. I would have bet 35 million would have been like the low mark. I never thought it would just open in the 20s. So I'd say this is a disappointing opening weekend just in context of how other horror films have been doing and how popular Pet Sematary is. But I didn't think the marketing was very good for this movie either. I think it had great trailers. I think Us had great trailers. I think the new Halloween had a good trailer. I don't think this had a very good trailer, personally. And it leaned too much on you being familiar with the material. It didn't sell it as scary like it could have. John Lithgow, what good casting. But still, $25 million opening weekend in 3,500 theaters, $42 million already. This will definitely make $100 million worldwide and be a success with its budget. So this isn't a bomb at all. Let me make that clear. This is not a bomb by any means. This film is doing good, but I think it could have done a lot better. Unfortunately, now we're not going to get a new Pet Sematary for years. I think Pet Sematary could have been a classic. I think it's totally cinematic. I think we've always had the chance to get a Pet Sematary film that's kind of like a horror masterpiece. And unfortunately, now with 2 movies, it seems like we're never going to get that movie. And that really upsets me. Oh, it's a total fucking... That blueprint analogy I made earlier, that's like reading it as looking at a blueprint and being like, this is going to fall apart. They've been talking about The Stand for a while. What happened with that? The guy who did the Cancer Breakfast Club movie. With Ansel Elgort. That guy, he was going to do he was going to do The Stand. And he was going to do like 4 movies. And then they talked about a mini-series. What the fuck happened to The Stand? Oh yeah, no, it is a mixed bag. There's good stuff in it though. Oh yeah, the Shining movie that Kubrick made is like on another level. Yeah, the Bachman stuff feels like when he's actually trying. It feels like he's actually trying with those books, the stories. Those are the ones where it's like he sees like I'm trying to actually be a serious writer and write something of value. And I'm not going to write these, like... Because it got to a point where I think he stopped getting edited. You know, nobody started to edit Stephen King anymore after his books became such big hits, and I think he reached a level of commercial success that nobody had ever really reached before. And name recognition that he stopped, it was all yes men. You know, maybe some of those books wouldn't have got published. He's basically a great short story writer that ended up writing these, like, 600-page novels that would have been great short stories. It would be better as a short story. It just would. Pennywise. There's actually several short stories in there, and some of his best stuff. I mean, you have the book that has The Body, which is Stand By Me, and has the Shawshank Redemption. You know, those are the ones that. But the Bachman stuff, yeah, it does feel like he's trying with those, you know, and they're not over long. But yeah, it feels like there was that point he got so successful after Carrie and all that, and The Shining, that he just stopped having an editor. Nobody told him no. He could publish whatever he wanted, so he just released everything that he wrote. This was the cocaine era of Stephen King. He doesn't remember writing Cujo, and he releases all these books. And yeah, of course, it's a mixed bag. You get an occasional good book, and then you get a bunch of crap. You know, his biggest issue has always just been tightness. Just putting in all these things that are unnecessary, that a lot of people who love Stephen King, this fleshes it out more, having all this backstory for everybody in the history of things. But I just disagree. Is at a point you need to keep following the story, and he loses track of the story. No, the stand's pretty good. I don't like the ending, but the stand is good. Yes, he doesn't like perpetual motion, moving things forward. The guy is the lead in Christine, that guy from Back to School that played Rodney Dangerfield's son. He's terrific in Christine. It's a very underrated performance. I definitely don't want to hear Sardonicast discuss Dark Crystal. I was disgusted when they were talking about After Hours. It's like, how do you guys make these really interesting movies sound so fucking lame? Like, even when you guys like them, like, how did you do such a boring review of Fantastic Planet? How the fuck do you guys get together and all become so boring when you're all really entertaining on your own? Fuck no, I haven't read a Stephen King book since, like, that one Wonderland or Joyland. I read Joyland, but I do not read Stephen King at all. One of my favorite Stephen King books actually is one of his books that isn't The Eyes of the Dragon. It's fantasy book, which is like a perfect children's fantasy book where he's really not trying to be Stephen King. And it's like, I wish you would stop trying to be Stephen King, because I like this so much more. Yeah, I read Joe Hill stuff. Tangerine's admirable because of what he made it on, even though he had really good lenses. But I'm not a fan of that director. I also didn't like the film he made after that, the Motel movie with Willem Dafoe. In the Disney. I didn't really like that either. I think Scott Baker, is that his name? I think he's very overrated. I'm actually not big on that guy like other people. He seems like a nice fellow, though. Yeah, he doesn't need to be. I agree. It feels like he's getting paid for word. Because he has these great story ideas. They're great story ideas, and they make great short stories. Cujo would be a perfect short story. Perfect short story. Christine would be a perfect short story. But he somehow always ends up reading fucking 500 pages with that shit. You know, it's like, fuck. And it's not that I dislike long books. I love Clive Barker. Clive Barker writes a lot of long books, but he's just a better fucking writer. When it comes to that stuff, sometimes you have to play to your strengths. King isn't an epic writer for me. The stuff in The Dark Tower that's good with that's his best shit at doing that. But for the most part, I go back to the first Gunslinger. You know, I go back to the novellas. Pet Sematary is like 360 pages. That's the stuff that sticks with me. I've tried with Sardonicast, man. I've tried. And I know people like it. It's popular. People in the comments are like, you guys have become better. I think it's a train wreck that is only being held up by all of their fan bases, that they're all like big YouTube channels. Really, the fact that they all have channels that are like in the million sub area, or they have videos like that. The fact they only bring in like at a high show 100,000 views, I think says a lot, that the show isn't really that low. Those are just the most loyal fans watching Sardonicast. I don't think it's ever really turned into its own thing separate from their fan base. I think when Adam and his pals watch stuff on his channel, like when they did the Space Jam thing, that's way better than any episode of Sardonicast. His friends are also funnier. Yeah, they don't. Well, James Ellroy is very hard to adapt, but you have to acknowledge that. It's not that people don't want to adapt James Ellroy. It's very difficult. I mean, LA Confidential is a magic trick that it's so good. His books are very dense. It's hard to capture a lot of that in a movie. I think you'd have to maybe do a mini series. I don't think his stuff's easy to make into a film. Maybe if David Fincher took a crack at it, Cujo would have played better if it started with the mom and her kid just getting attacked by the dog. I can't stand the stuff around the premise except the scene. Actually, the only thing I like is when you're in Cujo's head and he thinks like bees are in his brain. I like that stuff. Are there any classics or great cult films that you haven't? Probably. I mean, I assume so. I haven't seen every movie ever made. Cult films, that's one's a little bit tougher. I don't know. I've seen I'd say most of the famous cult movies. Classics, I definitely, just because you don't always have access to them. There's a lot of classic movies I would love to watch that I've never been able to find without paying a lot of money or something like that. Or I never got around to seeing them. I'm trying to think of one. Chinatown was one that was for years I didn't see, but I've seen Chinatown a few times now. I'm trying, because everyone has to admit, that they haven't seen everything, and I'm trying to think what I haven't seen. Because I'm trying to think, is there a filmmaker I haven't watched every film? Because usually when I get into a filmmaker, I see all of his movies. I haven't seen every Bergman film, but I don't think all of them are considered classics. Like the Apu trilogy, I didn't see that for a long time, but I've seen it now, so that was one that would have been on there. I didn't see that. But I'm sure they're out there, I just can't think of them right now. I know there's a bunch of classic films that I haven't seen, and I'm sure there's tons of cult movies I haven't seen. I'm sure there's hundreds. Well, this goes back to the Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone was basically a celebration of short stories, and the anthology in its classic form is a celebration of short stories. So Rod Serling basically had two of the greatest horror science fiction writers of all time on the show, and then he was a brilliant writer, and they just told short stories and celebrated it through the visuals which became iconic. There's really no show as good as Twilight Zone's the greatest show of all time. There's no show with as many classic episodes, and how there are so many different creative directors and casts and writers, and it's so consistent. You really can't touch it, can you? It's kind of on another level. But what I don't feel with the new Twilight Zone is that they're celebrating that, which is the short story aspect of it, which is the heart of the Twilight Zone. I think they're getting a little too caught up in long form and trying to be cinematic, and it has no balls. It's shockingly tame. The new Twilight Zone, shockingly tame, especially in a world with Black Mirror. How tame it is. There's some good video games. There's a lot of good video game critics on YouTube. I mean, James Rolfe's always going to be my guy, but he doesn't really review new stuff. If you're looking for that, there's also a lot of bad video game reviewers on YouTube. I think short stories can make better films too. Yeah, like Stand By Me is probably my favorite Stephen King movie, and that was a short story. Well, I agree with that. I think what you get to do then is you get to flesh out, but you have that structure. But then you get to flesh out all the other details instead of taking this big book and trying to turn it into a movie. And figuring out how do you turn it into a movie. With a short story, it's a lot easier to just be like, oh yeah, this could be a movie. Like Shawshank Redemption, and then I get to add my stamp on it and flesh these things out more because there's a lot of great core ideas here. But you don't have to be as loyal to the material. Or if you're doing something long form, a lot of the little details that add up to what the book is overall is tough. I don't know what's with Sardonicast not going into depth as they could. I don't know. I wonder about it sometimes, but I've just given up. I think it's because honestly, my feelings on why it's never going to be great and what makes them not really, and what holds their channels back even, is that none of them really want to be revealing about who they really are and take risks in what they're trying to say or argue more, or really accept some of their own bullshit. I think ego has taken over, probably because they all got so successful so young through the internet. I think Adam, Ralph, and Alex, I think they can't see their own bullshit, and they have a hard time with that, seeing themselves with their bullshit and their flaws and their biases and the problems they have and the things that aren't their strengths. I think they have a hard time with the self-reflection of that. I'm not saying in their lives, but in their content, and I think that's always going to hold them back a little bit. Is that they're not willing to bleed a little bit for the audience. They like to be seen as cool. Ralph's probably the closest because he's young enough to still say shit that kind of reveals things about him, but I would say for the most part, none of them have they don't have the gift of gab. they're not great at explaining things or telling stories and stuff like that. They're very good at making YouTube videos and editing and formatting them and presenting them to the audience and structuring the video and using the content of the movie as kind of the hook. But when they're left to their own devices of just talking to each other, it might just show that they're just not that funny. They're kind of bland people who make really good YouTube videos. But they themselves as people and as artists aren't super interesting. But that might just be because they're young. You know, maybe a few years from now they'll all be more interesting. I don't know. Or maybe that they're too involved with the online aspect of it. Maybe that's a problem. I don't really know. No, I mean, I think Adam's the best part of Sardonicast. By far. Let me make that clear. I think if Adam just did the podcast himself, it would be better. I think Adam is the best part of the show, and I think he can do good podcasts. I think he has the most ability. I really think Ralph and Alex are the issue. I don't think they're good podcasters, which is a different skill set from what they do on their channels. Those are different things. You know, that's not me saying that they're not good at other things. Being really good at a podcast is a separate skill set. You know, Kevin Smith isn't a very good filmmaker anymore, but he's a damn good podcaster. There is a different thing. That does not mean that Ralph and Alex are not good at what they do. I want to make that clear. I don't think that. I just don't think they're very good at being like a radio guy. I don't think they're good at the radio part of podcasting. Adam, on the other hand, he can talk. I think they're working out the group chemistry. I don't disagree. I don't think they really knew each other that well. You know, the thing that makes Red Letter Media so good is that Rich, Jay, and Mike know each other so well. And they've known each other for years. So they have that chemistry that's been developed over a long time, and they know how each other thinks. I don't think Adam and Ralph and Alex really thought out their chemistry. I think they just thought we could get together because we like each other's channels. I mean, if it was me, I would never do a show with Alex. So I don't know. I don't really. I think I think they're trying to work it out, but they're this many episodes in and they haven't developed that chemistry. It makes me like Blood Money, that first episode of the beef stew we did. We had pretty good chemistry early on. I think. I don't think it took very long. I think we immediately had chemistry. That's kind of how a podcast should work. You should feel it right away. It shouldn't take 50 episodes. You know. I love your compliment. I'm overwhelmed that you would even compare me at all to Red Letter Media, ER, or Mahler. Particularly Red Letter Media. I think I'm on the level of ER and Mahler sometimes. I actually do. But Red Letter Media, yeah. But that's because there's a vulnerability with them. They're very revealing people, and they're willing to take risks a lot of the time. But when Adam ever does his long form content, whenever he does a Your Movie Sucks video, like the Spike Lee Old Boy one, I think his stuff's great. I love those videos from Adam, by the way. I'm less into his quickie reviews. What about the podcast with David Lynch? Yeah, Stephen King's a great short story writer. But this is another thing, not playing to your strengths. A lot of people have a problem with that. They don't want to be locked into a box. It is hard to touch Red Letter Media because they're not just really good film critics, and they've become better film critics. They're funnier than anyone else, and just the edit. They're so self-aware of the internet, and they invented so much of the shit that's become the norm that they play within that. I mean, nobody has as many classic videos in that genre like they do. Yeah, it is that way. It should be like a super group. Like having 3 big YouTubers like that should be the podcast, and it's not any. I mean, think about how popular Baited got with Keemstar and Colossal and Tommy the First Run. Unlikely pairings that really turned into something. There was a narrative, that didn't. Sardonicast. Maybe it was like the Miami Heat, like LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, and then they lose to the Dallas Mavericks. Maybe it's too much of a good thing, and ego gets in the way. Beef Stew episode 1 definitely had chemistry. Sounded like two rom-com characters finally were realizing their destiny through the meeting of each other. It sucks too, because me and him talked the other day for like 2 hours. We hadn't talked in a few weeks. And I keep berating him. I'm like, dude, God fucking damn it, why aren't we doing the Beef Stew? That was so good. And we had a 2-hour conversation about Stephen King. That was like an hour long. An hour of this conversation was about Stephen King. And then the other parts were on Kevin Smith and a couple other things, and it was brilliant. It was like this hilarious, great tour. And I'm going, why the fuck didn't I record this? This could have been the Beast 2 episode 2. I mean, it was great. It was better than the first one. All the best stuff me and him have talked about's never been recorded. I think it's even going to be better that we're not in the room together. I think that affected the first episode that we were in the room together. I think it's going to be a better show when we're talking with the computers, with microphones. I think that's going to make it a better show. You saved me from Chris Stuckman's blandness. Well, then my channel was all worth it if I kept you from watching Chris Stuckman and you escaped that. That makes me feel so good in my life. Yeah, I think Ethan has that issue. I don't think he's able to build very good chemistry with people. I think he tries a little bit too hard to be like an alpha. I think that's an issue a lot of YouTubers have. They're trying to be like alpha male when they're clearly not alpha males. There's some nerdy, like, fat guy who's a little older, he has kids and stuff, and they always try to act like, I think that's always I think that holds a lot of them back. Yeah, Red Letter Media plays it a little safer than they used to, but like the Captain Marvel, like they did the best thing. They took the best approach to the Captain Marvel stuff. They always do. They always find the best approach. They're very level-headed. The guys at Red Letter Media, or a scientist man explained that Ghostbusters wasn't sexist. They're like their Ghostbusters review. That is the Ghostbusters review, I don't know what's up with Ethan sometimes. I really like Ethan. I was on that one, show with him, but he confuses me. Well, as long as we're giving Pat hand jobs, your Park and Rec video back that is one of my favorites. I took that video down too. I like that video too. I want to do that video again, though, where I explain why Parks and Rec is so great. I don't think Ethan's an idiot. I think he's in over his head a little bit with politics and all that. I think he probably needs to read a little bit more about the things he's talking about. I think he became really popular in this, and I think he's in over his head a little bit when it comes to the political discussion. I can understand that. I think that's... that just happens on YouTube, man. You get really popular and you don't stick to the things you know. You start talking out of your ass, and people listen to you because, you're popular. But that's also how these channels have a big downfall. It's because once you get called out on your bullshit enough, you're not cool anymore, and YouTube's all about being cool. Red Letter Media's always been cool, and you really can't hurt them. I don't see anywhere where they're going to be uncool, No, Ethan, I agree. Ethan can be funny. I like Ethan. I like talking to him. He just, he has these character traits that I don't respond to. Yeah, I agree that I do think he's that's why I prefer talking to David Stewart when I had David Stewart on. I find David Stewart to be much more level-headed and just well-rounded than a lot of those other content creators who really got kind of big when Last Jedi came out. And it sucks that me and David Stewart have never been able to do anything together again, because I really enjoy talking to him. And David Stewart, I still am a fan of, and we still communicate via Twitter. He even interacts with some of you guys on Twitter. There's a lot of little gem YouTube channels like that make really good content, and they're overshadowed by these bigger YouTubers that follow the trends. But that's how YouTube works. You got to follow the trends. Don't make a video on Garden State being a horror movie. That's my advice. Even if you think it's a really good video yourself. Oh yeah, no, he's a clickbait artist, Geeks and Gamers. That's because Red Letter Media makes jokes but doesn't take anything seriously enough to get the stupid internet drama. Yeah, they avoid drama. That's so true. They've mastered the way to maneuver around it, but they've been in it so long, they understand it. These other guys, they're new to it. They're not new to the internet, but they're new to this and this growing platform. Well, thank you, Eli. Not much. Just doing my show. Hey, it's a living. Yeah, totally. You gotta make money. You gotta make money. Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers is a very nice guy. Having talked to him on that High Council and talking to him after the High Council was over, he's an extremely nice guy. He's a very nice guy. I have no problem saying that. He really was. He was a sweetheart, quite frankly. Let's talk about Shazam. You know, DC's on a roll. Wonder Woman did well. Justice League happened, but then you have Aquaman made 1.1 billion. Okay reviews. Audiences liked it though. I remember when everyone was making fun of this movie, like Zachary Levi's costume and the set photos, and everyone saying this was going to be a disaster. And here we are now, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, $100 million budget, $53 million opening weekend, $160 million worldwide already. Shazam's a hit. People are liking it. The critics are liking it. You have 3 DC films now that are successful. I mean, DC's making a huge bounce back. You know, this did a little bit worse than Ant-Man. They definitely haven't reached MCU levels outside of Aquaman. In a lot of ways when it comes to like just this major success with standalone movies, but still, from David S. Sandberg, who is a horror director who made Lights Out, a film that made $150 million on a $5 million budget, and then he did the Annabelle sequel, which got much better reviews than the first Annabelle. Or was this a prequel? I can't remember. But this had a $15 million budget, which is actually pretty high for the genre. This made $306 million worldwide. So he's already been a very successful filmmaker with 2 well-reviewed films, and now he is with the 3rd film, well-reviewed. He knows how to do this stuff on a lower budget. You take, you know, the premise of Big, and Zachary Levi, who I always was a fan of. I really liked him on Chuck. Oh, Adam Brody's in this. I love Adam Brody, too. And now you have another successful film. Maybe a generic superhero film in a lot of ways. And also the kid from It is in this. But yeah, here we go with a $100 million budget. This is a good opening weekend. It was tracking to open to 45 million. I think this is above what they were expecting. I think 150 million is a lock. I think 400 million worldwide, certainly possible. I mean, really, if this film ends up making like 165 mil domestic and like 450 to 500 million worldwide, this is a successful movie. This movie doesn't have to make $700 million or $800 million. It doesn't. Especially since Shazam's just not that popular to mainstream audiences. I'm a big Shazam fan, and I always wanted to make a Shazam movie because I thought that premise was great, that it's a kid that turns into this guy. I always thought that was an awesome idea, and that is the hook of the movie, and I think that's what sold it. But it seems like audiences are enjoying it, so good for Zachary Levi, who's never really been able to have the movie career that I think a lot of his fans wanted him to have. Good for this director, who now is as you know, like a Hollywood director straight up, coming up through horror. Always like to see that. And in general, you know, it's hard to have ill will towards this. Just that we're out of the Zack Snyder era. You know, and Snyder being so desperate defending his choices in Batman v Superman, I sound like an idiot, and these other films doing so much better without him. It has to be so painful to him that people really are moving on. His movies had these huge opening weekends, but then always dropped off, and then affected the next movie. Justice League is a result of Zack Snyder and the studio, to be honest. But then now here you are where, you know, people are going to see these down. Then there's all this hype for Todd Phillips' The Joker. The trailer has 40 million views. So DC's making a huge comeback. And it's undeniable at this point. This really, I think, solidifies it more than anything, that this is coming out around the time of the Joker trailer. Joker's coming out later in the year. I doubt that movie costs more than like $65-70 million, the Joker movie. That they're doing these lower budgeted films. They're not making, I mean, Dumbo costs more than this movie, right? Such a smarter choice here. A lot of smart choices with Shazam that paid off. If it had been a terrible movie and a disaster, like some of us were worried it was going to be, then they could have fallen apart. But, you know, they got by on the skin of their teeth. And they worked really hard, I think, to try to make an enjoyable film. And it paid off for them. So even though this isn't my kind of thing, you know, it's hard to knock these guys. WB did a really good job of turning around how people viewed their universe. They've also done a really good job of the directors they've been hiring to do these movies. And horror directors, they've been going after horror directors. You know, James Wan and now this guy, Sandberg. I think that's really great. Yeah, and it has that time before yeah, and the OC, the pilot to the OC, that's my shit. See, $50 million budget for Joker, that's great. If the movie opens to like 40 something million, makes like 100 mil domestic, 250 mil, 300 mil worldwide, they have a hit movie. You know, that's the smart way to do, and I like that they're doing Elseworlds Tales too. Yeah, get used to Pat totally ignoring comments while talking for what seems like forever. He will miss a lot of them fly. Actually, Pat interacts with his audience much more than most YouTubers. Yeah, that's true. I think I interact with my audience more than like any other YouTuber I know. And that we've built this small community. Oh yeah, if I had like 100,000 subs and there was 1,000 people in the chat, this would be very difficult. This is when live streams are at their best before it turns into chaos and you can actually have conversations. But I think we built a great community. I mean, there's that one guy that always shits on my channel, Alex, even though he watches the videos. But he always says, you know, the only reason I come to your channel is the people you built. He said, I think your fans are better. Your fans are even better than like Red Letter Media. I think the fact that we have so many film buffs on this channel that actually know a lot of the stuff we're talking about. We're trying to talk about more art films, more esoteric stuff, that we're not just talking about Star Wars and Marvel and all that stuff all the time. I think is a great, and that we all disagree and we have arguments and stuff like that. And we've built a little mythology that you guys are just as much a part of the channel as I am. I think that's very rare. I think for the most part, a YouTube channel is the YouTube channel. And then the audience is a separate thing, and people comment on the audience as a separate thing. But I think Please Rewind is the audience. I think that's the heart of the channel. I don't completely buy the studios lying about Gross's thing. I mean, at the end of the day, they're businesses. Even if they were lying for PR purposes, they still end up bankrupt. The spice. What's up, Pat? Not much, Tyler? I think there probably is a core. Yeah, if we could get like 10,000 regular people. Because the problem is with this channel is that a lot of people were subscribed to it and they lost it. I get it all the time. I have 10,000 subscribers. Where are they, right? And you might think like, well, they just don't like your channel. That's not really what it was. That YouTube changed the algorithm so much, and then people weren't even getting notifications. And then for months I didn't make videos, so people thought I was done, or they didn't know that. I get it every day. I get a comment every other day. Someone's like, "Dude, I used to love your channel. I didn't know it was you. Shit, you're back." They have to find it again. There's I have a lot of fans. There's thousands of people out there that are fans of my content or loved old videos or new videos. Some of these videos have hundreds of thousands of views. People saw them. It's just how YouTube's kind of been set up as a format. People haven't been able to stick around from the patriarchy days through the many phases of this channel. There's a lot of people I see come and go that were huge fans of this channel, that loved it, that I was friends with, and I don't know what happened to them. And then I find them again. So, you know, we haven't seen Frasier Danger in months. You know, I don't know where he is. I love Frasier. We were really good friends. I got on a stream with him and Naked Ape one time. He's a great guy. That just happens with this channel. When you don't get new subscribers so much. But, you know, to let you guys know that you're not the only ones. There's thousands of people out there that really like this channel. You guys aren't alone. You guys are just the ones that have been the purists and really stuck it out. But, I know I was a little negative on the channel last time and how the content was going, but I'm really proud of what we've turned this into as a body of work and content, that if people do ever find it in the future, which doesn't really happen with YouTube, by the way, it's a good body of work. I think that there's a lot of solid, great content on this channel. People always say that to me, like collaboration, but it doesn't really, like, Cordery put me in his video, that didn't do anything for the channel. I was on the High Council, that didn't do anything with the channel. I had David Stewart on the channel, that didn't do anything for the channel. People always say that. I don't know if, I just don't think I'm mainstream as a YouTuber. I think if I made a movie, I could make a mainstream movie, but do I think as a YouTuber that I think I'm too much of an individual, and I'm not doing that as a thing to perpetuate my own ego. I think I'm just too individualistic. I'm too much me, and the things I do that I do to my taste so much that I don't think I'll ever really translate to a large audience. I'm sorry to hear that, Neil. I wish you could have had. You don't have to upload every day if you want more subs. That's not true. People say that, but it's not true. Mahler doesn't upload every day. He got huge. He takes weeks off. ER doesn't upload every day, and he didn't upload when he got big. Nerdwriter doesn't upload every day. You have to upload videos that get popular every week or every 2 weeks or a month. You don't... That idea that you have to upload videos all the time to get big, that's just not true. Most of the big YouTubers don't upload videos like that. Not counting live streamers and stuff like that, but a lot of the big essay channels, a lot of the big movie review channels, they don't upload videos all the time. They upload like 2 or 3 videos a week. Not everyone is like Screen Junkies or something like that. So that's not true. I totally forgot. We didn't even talk about the Jaws video, did we? I wish I could have recorded the voiceover knowing what he was going to do. It was very abstract when he presented it to me and explained it to me. I didn't know it was going to be like a literal shark on the phone like that. Because that line he says before that the shark was the only one on at the Christmas festival, that killed me. That was so funny. You know, but I wish I would know more because I think I could have done a better job with the voice. Because usually when you do voice acting, you kind of have a better idea of what you're going to get. With that, he just gave me the script and said, say this stuff. And I was like, okay. It wasn't until I saw it that I was like, shit, this is what you were going to do? And then because of that, that boosted me to release my Garden State video earlier. Because we were doing the Garden State video. I was going to do that with Terrible Lizard. That was a video I had in the pipeline for a long time. I thought of that video months ago with Blood Money. And I was talking about Terrible Lizard doing that for a long time, but Terrible Lizard has to get a new editor right now. Something got fucked up with his Adobe Premiere. So after seeing that Jaws video and how fucking good it was, where I think Cordery went to another level as a writer and as a video editor, I was like, I can edit the fucking Garden State video myself. And I made the Garden State video, and I think that's maybe my best editing. I don't think it's quite reached like his How to Get a Girl video, Terrible Lizard, or maybe the Good Will Hunting video, but I think my best editing is that Garden State video, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the editing on that. I'm very proud of the last few videos. I'm very proud of the Ed Wood video, the Captain Marvel video. I think all my recent content has been very good and refined, and it took me a long time to get there. Not all subs are able to catch your live streams or input messages in chat, but they are there. Yeah, I wish people could be on but you know, some people don't like live streams. I get it all the time. Like, man, I subscribed to you because you used to do these movie reviews that I really liked. And now all you do is these live streams or these like analysis videos or these joking videos. You don't just review. And I don't review movies anymore. If you actually look at my channel the last year and a half, I haven't reviewed shit. Like, I reviewed Bohemian Rhapsody and Halloween and Spider-Man and all that, but I haven't really reviewed... I didn't review Aquaman. I'm not going to review Shazam, Pet Sematary, Dumbo, Us, I did review Captain Marvel. How to Train Your Dragon. I didn't review any of these movies. I mean, I'm a movie review channel, and I don't review movies. So that was the problem. The channel never had an identity. It was a political channel where I responded to articles. Then it became a movie review channel. Then it stopped being that and turned into just a channel of whatever the fuck I want to upload. And that's been the issue with the channel. There's been no consistency. If you watch on it, it could be that, Pat, you don't do enough mainstream content. Crap that everyone else is talking about. Gotta ride that bandwagon at least somewhat. You're right, but the fact that I gotta ride, I don't have to. Because I only have so much time in my life, right? I only have so much to give because I have everything else going on, and I don't want to spend that time talking or editing or all that on shit that I don't care about Because not only is that a waste of my time, it's a waste of the time of anybody watching it, and it doesn't contribute anything to anybody. And I don't want to do that. Because if it's not coming from a real place, then I've already compromised myself. And then I'm Jay Leno. And I don't want to be Jay Leno. Yeah, 50 First Dates is one of his better movies. True. And this isn't about, like, I don't want to sell out, man. I have artistic integrity. I just don't want to spend... It takes a lot of time to make a video. Like, it's not something you could do in 5 minutes. So I just don't want to spend that time on some shit that I don't care about. Why would I do that? I only have one life, and I'm not going to spend my life doing a bunch of shit just so I can get a lot of views on YouTube and make money. I would feel pathetic if all of my fame and success in life and value came from monetary gains and popularity on fucking YouTube. That just isn't enough for me. I need more than that. Yeah, I enjoyed the live stream reviews mainly because the format of them, that I would go through the whole movie and explain the movie. Like the Jurassic World one, I think is very fun. The second Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. I think that one's very funny how I explain that movie. It's like, is this raptor gonna rape this girl? I always thought that, I actually think I have a perfect chin. Thank you very much. Oh, to be Jay Leno, then, yeah, a big chin, yeah. You know, I don't have an agent. Fucking bobbing head motherfucker. I mean, us current fans we'll laugh at you. I mean, you know, I mean, the Captain Marvel video was me kind of giving people a little bit of what they wanted. But I'd rather get views like Private Lessons. That Private Lesson video I do terrible. It has 3,000 views. I'd be much happier with that. If videos like that got like 10,000 views, or the Good Will Hunting video, or the Garden State video, if those just got like 10,000 views, that's all I really want, man. I don't want 1,100,000. Like the videos I got views for, like the Why Rose Doesn't Work has 300,000 views. That's like my least favorite video I've ever made. That video sucks. And the movie, you know, I like the Luke video, but most of the videos that have the Smugly Puff video with 100,000 views, that video's fucking awful. I'm ashamed of that video. It's fucking terrible. And you know, the videos that I really like, that I love, like when I talk about Fearless and when I talk about American Graffiti or Almost Famous, you know, those don't have views, but that's the kind of shit I wish people would watch. And I don't need it to be big. I wish it just had like 5,000-10,000 views, and I had like a small fan base that was loyal to those videos. That's all. That liked underrated classics and stuff like that. I don't really have a desire to no, it's just true. I don't really have a desire to have like 250,000 subscribers and all my videos get 100,000 views and people get it, you know, because most of those channels that have that, for the most part, I find those videos entertaining, but to kind of get to that point, I think they're so generic that they're just that. They're just kind of like junk food. And every video I make, that next video, I'm trying to make something that's really great, that I can really be proud of, and will be my thing. But it's I think there'd be a good alignment between you, more of your views, and the review. Yeah, but like fucking Red Letter Media, how am I ever gonna get, you know, everybody wants a piece of that pie. I'm not really being hard on myself. I just think people think that if you're on YouTube, you have this desire to have like 500,000 subscribers and be loved. That was never the reason I got on YouTube. I never made YouTube videos for that reason. When I got some form of success, that was always shocking whenever a video did well or when I got fans. That was never what I was really aiming for. And it always surprised me that anybody even gave a shit what I had to say. Or that anybody would even watch it or even spend any time on it. I mean, that was like winning the lottery. That was never the goal. Or I feel like a lot of big YouTubers, one that come to mind is like Shoe on Head. She was clearly a fame whore. Aiden Paladin, which, gotta say, Kraut did a terrific video on her. Where the cosplay shit she tried to do, and then she tried to do the comic book reviews drunk, like she was trying to get on channel. Clearly wanted success and to be a princess and to be celebrated. That's what a lot of people, these people want. Just like people who become actors or directors, they want the fame. They care about people validating them. And I don't like those kind of people. And I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just like talking about movies, so I record myself talking about movies and shit. Because otherwise I'm just talking to my friends or I'm talking to my fiance and she doesn't give a fuck. But if I put it on YouTube, maybe somebody will give a fuck. That's all it really is. My desire, though, is to make movies. I mean, I'm just finishing a script up for a movie I want to make. Proud as a nut job, but not as much of a nut job as Aiden Paladin, which is the craziest psycho bipolar bitch on YouTube. I used to be a little nice when I talked about her, but Aiden Paladin is a fucking psycho. She's worse than Natalie Portman in Garden State. I agree. Ralph would have been a better filmmaker. I think YouTube's going to damage him in that way. But there's someone like iDubbbz who's a good artist within YouTube. Like, I don't know if he could make good stuff out, but he's really talented for this format. Sometimes you just have to do trashy commercial garbage to fund your passion projects. So what John Cassavetes did, it's what Tim Robbins does. That's true to a certain point, but it's what your scale is. Like, if I could fund a movie that I love, maybe, but I don't know. I've made 6 movies, and I'm working on the script to the next one, and I have the equipment and resources to do so. I don't really need $1 million. All she has is a sexy voice. I don't think the $1 million would make me any happier with that. It'd make me happier in my life, that I wouldn't have the stress of my bills and I could live in a big house and have all the shit I want, but it wouldn't make me happier with what I'm trying to achieve, which is introspection. It's trying to figure out who you are a little bit more and knowing yourself and being able to communicate and grow your empathy with others and understand the world around you and living a life of value, I guess. Feeling value in your life and I agree with you. I agree that iDubbbz could make great stuff. I'm shocked someone like Netflix or someone... I like Aiden's videos. She makes good content. She's just a psycho bitch that gets white knights defending her way too much for her consistent, over the years, psychotic personality. And fame horror. And, I've just met too many women like her in real life. I dated girls like her in real life. They are Satan. And I've always had this issue. I always hate when people defend crazy girls because of pussy. I don't like it. It may sound sexist, it may sound fucked up. I hate the power of pussy. Patrice O'Neill used to talk about that, It's so powerful. Guys have to go on a date with a girl and put on a fucking act. They're auditioning. She just has to have her the power of the P. Mario jumps on the P, and then there's a bunch of coins. Perfect Blue is like a David Lynch movie. It's great. It's honestly great. Like, one of the best thrillers I've ever seen. God, this episode's going on way longer than I thought it would. I thought this was going to be like an hour-long episode. But isn't that the joke of Box Office Addict, that it never ends when it's due? Oh, hey, honey. Talking. Now to people. Maybe I'm talking to myself. This could be like a thing where I imagine everyone's in the chat and there's actually nobody watching. It's masturbation. It's artistic masturbation. Yes, you did. Now you have to finish me off. Yes. That is the metaphor. We have a young YouTuber here who wants to get himself off. Oblige him. No, I'm the whore. You're just like a tool to complete my ultimate satisfaction. You're like a brush. You're like a brush when I'm painting. You're like a brush. Yeah, you're like an object that I have to use to get to where I'm trying to get. You keep your hair so nice. You just have really nice fucking hair. I really enjoyed Steins Gate. This guy Sam Yargo, he writes, I'm horny. That's fucking great.
Well, what the fuck am I supposed to about?
What the fuck? The fuck does that mean? That's it. Hey, dude, that's a bummer, dude. It's a real bummer, dude. I hope you figure that out. Oh, so did you like Inglorious Basterds?
Oh,
I'm just asking because you wanted to watch it. It's not like usually we watch a movie I want to watch.
So we discussed it.
And then you're like, I want to watch that movie Inglorious Basterds that came out 10 years ago.
I discussed it with and they were, so they know that were asked about this. I tried to. There's parts I still. Why the fuck? A second. But really, I already knew that girl. I don't know. Some of the things on it.
Tarantino be in the room and he's like, it's because the fucking cutaway, man. It's so you can fucking see the mindset of this girl. That she's looking at this guy and she fucking hates this guy and she views him as a pig. It's fucking important, man.
Yeah, but I already got that from the...
I know.
There's no need for the cutaway.
You're preaching to the choir. That's the fucking shit, man. Did you like it, though?
I liked it.
I'm not, like, you don't, I know you didn't like the cutaway, but overall, did you like the movie?
Yeah, I do. Probably should.
The movie titled Inglorious Basterds should have been about the...
Hitler? That's so...
I know it is. Him trying to defend it is stupid, too, like when he defends it.
Killing Hitler, but...
You look so beautiful to me right now. Just shitting on Tarantino. I could not be happier. This is better than any blowjob. This is just another...
I'm artistic. Yeah.
Oh, very much so. Very much. That's the best review of Inglorious Basterds I've ever heard. It's stupid. I wish Tarantino could just hear that. That would just shut him down. He would not know what. He'd just be flabbergasted. Like, it's enjoyable but stupid. Like that should be on the fucking poster. That's true. But you like American Werewolf, so you have very good taste. We watched Pulp Fiction like a year ago. Do you remember that, though? I'm about to say, I don't think you remember.
I have a feeling that memory.
Yeah, we watched Pulp Fiction a year ago, so you've seen 2 Quentin Tarantino movies.
What a time. Let's watch this. Got it 2 days.
He's like, there was a Gimp? What?
That's funny because through and he's serving.
people who don't I don't. It's not my issue with Inglorious Basterds being historically inaccurate. I don't think that's closed my. I think it's just execution. Like the killing of Hitler. It's like I don't think that's imaginative. I think it's just Tarantino. Even Tarantino says like, I just wanted to kill Hitler, man. Like, okay, you have to have a reason. You can't just do it for fun.
Here's the thing.
If it's just fun, it's fucking stupid. Like,
a lot of people, they didn't do it.
yeah, the plan is awful. Their plan to execute it really shouldn't work. It's awful. No, yeah, it's not a lack of imagination. I would say Tarantino lacked imagination, that he couldn't come up with a more clever way for Hitler to escape and explain this, not it being historically accurate, but he couldn't find out a more clever way. He just has Hitler getting blown away by a gun. I don't think that's creative or imaginative at all. I think that's very narrow-minded and almost like simplistic in its celebration of violence. Where you think about the scene in Reservoir Dogs where he tortures the guy, or the Gimp scene, that's creative. That has fucking imagination. You know, go get the Gimp, but he's sleeping. Wake him up. You know, his dad's dead, babe, and he's got the motorcycle and they're in the store. That's imagination and creativity.
How many... when that was...
Well, yeah, that guy Stauffenberg or whatever, the guy with the... whatever's fucking... Well, because he's... Tom Cruise played him in that movie Valkyrie Up Project, where he was going to blow him up with the briefcase. But Tarantino, yeah, like... Just because you can do anything doesn't mean you should. He's like, I can do whatever the fuck I want, man. I'm gonna kill Hitler. Everyone's gonna fucking love it. And they did. And everyone did, yeah. They did. It was his, like, most successful movie.
Also,
which you haven't seen yet. There's a poster of it right above your head over there on the wall. That's just because I told you there's a bad rape scene, and you're like, we're not watching that movie.
It's the...
That's what makes it impactful, is the details, yeah. It's fucked up. I'm not gonna act like it's not a fucked up scene, but it's...
Just as being with a man, that situation...
Oh, yeah.
I get it, it's just...
Being the guy in that situation, it's like...
Oh, I have to... Yeah, I just said it's...
Viddy well, friend, viddy well. I mean, I don't care that he killed... It doesn't, like, affect the movie that much that he kills Hitler. Don't get me wrong, like... That doesn't, like... It doesn't ruin the movie. It's like, 30-second scene. Like, I'm not acting like it's a big deal, but I don't really like the Hitler stuff in that movie that much.
No, in the... doesn't get any better. That stuff's... absolutely no reason it... other than maybe lack of it. I didn't watch a lot of movies. But... yeah, I just... that's just a chord that if it's... handle a male...
That seemed to be hilarious if it was them raping a dude. I just thought about that. If you see A Clockwork Orange, if that was a guy, oh my god, that'd be so funny. Holy shit. That shit would kill me.
like any...
You don't really like violence in movies. Yeah, you're not like me, because I like get off on that shit and you don't.
No, I like to be... other... I'm not going around...
Oh, I guess nobody can hear what you're saying. Well, let's end the show. We got stuff to do. It's already been 2 hours. I didn't even think about that. You're so far away. Thank you. If you're a fan of the show, you're probably a box office addict yourself. And I encourage that. So I'll see you guys for episode 78 where we're talking about another fucking movie. Thought on the sloth and lust scene in 7. It's awesome. That's what's going down. Alright, but thank you guys. I appreciate you motherfuckers. You make me so happy.